Welcome to the Lehigh University Art Galleries. What we just viewed is what Carlos Lizama called his presentation, his introduction. It's like a calling card. It's his environment, his life, the place where he lived and worked in Santiago, Chile. We are very happy to present today this lecture we've been waiting for of our two friends from Chile. This is a program co-sponsored by the Lehigh University Global Citizenship and by Latin American Studies. By the way, Latin American Studies, those students who want to have the student minor, we have it here. That is what Antonio asked me to do, therefore here they are, anybody who wants to have that. Well, this program, these two artists and scholars in residence are Carlos Lizama. Carlos attributes his origin as painter and printmaker to his early introduction to art at the Experimental Artist Education Secondary School of Santiago, Chile. From there he went into the study graphic design. While developing as a muralist and painter, Lizama conducted several mural programs with a social purpose, such as drug prevention for vulnerable youth, including a summer mural program for inner city adolescents of New Orleans and Louisiana in 1996 here in the United States. Since 1995, he has taught art classes at community centers of Santiago and have been employed since 1998 at the Casa de la Cultura at the municipality of El Bosque as teacher and more recently also curator of the Center Art Gallery. He has experimented with shadow puppet theater, has created a stage set and produced cover design for books and music. In 1999, Lizama studied under a master printmaker at the Salvador Allende Solidarity Art Museum workshop. This experience spurred him to enter the University of Chile in 2000 to pursue a degree in fine art with a major in printmaking. He subsequently joined the Salvador Allende Solidarity Art Museum print studio, where the bulk of the work in this exhibition that we have at Magine was produced. His work has been shown individual and group exhibits in Lima, Peru, Buenos Aires, Porto Alegre, Brazil, New York City, New Orleans, as well as numerous venues in Chile. In 1993, Carlos Lizama won a second place in a national art competition sponsored by the Victor Jara Art Festival. In 1994, the municipality of Conchalí, where he painted public murals, recognized Lizama for his contribution to culture. Also in 1994, the Contemporary Art Museum and Amigos del Arte Foundation awarded his honorable mention as a promising young artist. His partner, Maxime Lowe, is a freelance journalist and researcher with focus on human rights, justice, and social issues. Trained as a human rights educator at the Chilean Human Rights Commission, she has lived in Chile since 1990. She's responsible for the Memorias y Justicia website, coordinated by attorney Fabiola Letelier, and is a lecturer in democracy and justice for the Intercultural Studies program for foreign students in Santiago de Chile. She also has been involved in grassroots women issues, community, and environment. Please give a big applause to Carlos and Maxime. One of our collaborators and the translator will be Dr. Edu Reportela from the Modern Language and Literature Department. Welcome.
Muchas gracias por venir a todos los presentes y por la acogida que nos han dado ustedes en esta galería y en la universidad. Los invito a que viajemos juntos y nos traslademos por el tiempo.
invite you to travel together back in time.
Esta imagen no solo retrata la geografía de Santiago, sino señala... Ok. No. Los invito a que viajemos juntos y nos traslademos por el tiempo.
I invite you to travel now, together back in time. Can you hear us? A little louder. Okay.
Esta imagen no solo retrata la geografía de Santiago, sino señala la situación en que se encontraba nuestra sociedad en el ámbito cultural. El paisaje representa lo llano en que se encontraba nuestra sociedad para ser influenciada por elementos extranjeros. El pintor italiano Alejandro Sicarelli representa la influencia social y cultural europea.
We begin our journey backwards in time with an image of early 19th century Santiago. This is not only representation of geographic characteristics, it also indicates symbolically the cultural and social situation of that time. The landscape is wide open and empty in the years after independence. Yet, Chilean society was heavily influenced by Europe. Artist Alejandro Sicarelli represents the social and cultural influence of Europe.
Chile se había ganado la independencia en España en 1810, pero no existían pintores chilenos. Los primeros pintores fueron todos extranjeros, como fue el caso de Mario Ruggens, un artista alemán que observó a la persona común y corriente representada en sus quehaceres domésticos.
Chile had won independence from Spain in 1810, but the first painters were all foreigners. Such was the case of Mauricio Ruggens, a German painter who observed the common people of Chile and their activities like this celebration.
A finales del siglo XIX y principios del XX surgieron los primeros artistas chilenos. Al centenario de la independencia de Chile se inaugura el Museo Nacional de Bellas Artes, 1910. Construida en un lugar que fue un basural donde los habitantes más pobres subsistían.
Late 19th and early 20th centuries emerged the first Chilean-born artists. On the 100-year anniversary of Chile's independence, the Fine Arts Museum was built on a site that had been a garbage dump where the poorest people subsisted.
Ya el arte se va abriendo a otras clases sociales que no tenían oportunidad de desarrollarse. Es así como nace la generación del 13. Movimiento que agrupa a un núcleo de escritores y pintores idealistas que amasaban su propio pan, que agarraban la tierra en el campo al sur de Santiago. Iban a los barrios populares a enseñar arte a los hijos de los obreros. Fue así como encontraron a Ezequiel Plaza, quien retrata aquí una escena en carro de tercera.
By this time, art was becoming more accessible to other social classes, not only to the wealthy. The generation of 1913 was a utopian society that brought idealistic writers and painters together in the country south of Santiago. They baked their own bread, plowed the fields, and went out to poor neighborhoods to teach art. That's how they discovered Ezequiel Plaza, the son of a worker, whose painting here depicts a third-class train car.
Ahora, en los 40, el artista se orientó hacia temas sociales y populares, que se manifestaron a través de la pintura mural y el grabado. Uno de los artistas que trabajó el mural y el grabado es Jesús Venturelis, quien llevó un mensaje social y político claro y directo.
By the 1940s, numerous artists portrayed social concerns. One who was both muralist and printmaker was José Venturelli, whose social and political message is clear and direct.
Change it. 1960 to 1973 was really the time of great utopian dreams, not only in Chile but throughout Latin America. There was in Chile a very vibrant Catholic worker movement that encouraged unionization and the formation of cooperatives. Priest Alberto Hurtado, who was beatified a saint in the year 2005, was an active supporter of unionization. Also, the Cuban Revolution stirred dreams of a more just society throughout Latin America. It was an era of great citizen participation. Throughout all of Latin America, rural to urban migration populated cities in all of mid-20th century. From 1880 to 1920s, Santiago was the fastest growing city of Latin America. During the 40s and 50s, industrialization of Santiago lured thousands from the countryside to the city, much like the story of foreign immigration to this country. Our grandparents and great-grandparents, they did find new opportunities, but they also found very hard work for slave wages and miserable, crowded living conditions. Thousands in overcrowded living quarters or living in flimsy huts on the outskirts of the city spurred a movement for public housing. The first land occupations for dignified housing took place in October 1957, leading to creation of Población La Victoria, where League High students visited it in January 2005. In mid-1960s, hundreds of land occupations took place in Chile and Santiago, demanding decent housing. This led to creation of a housing ministry and shaped Chilean public housing policy under Eduardo Frei, president from 64 to 70. And in this image we see some of the very first public housing units that were constructed. Now, during the Allende government estimated that housing shortage in 70 was at 64% of the population. Under Frei and Allende, housing policy was founded on the premise that decent housing was a right, unlike Pinochet, who viewed it not as a right but as a commodity. And now, in addition to agrarian reform and housing, Frei introduced other fundamental social reforms that improve quality of life and encourage citizen participation. Among these also was, as you see, the portrayed schools, because education was very important. Over 3,000 schools were built during the Frei administration, providing 100% access to elementary education, introducing very important curriculum changes. And Chile had one of the highest literacy rates of Latin America in the 60s to 1973. Now, while urban dwellers were organizing in Santiago, peasants were coming together in the countryside as well for the first time. In the early 1960s, there was great pressure for agrarian reform and to modernize agriculture. The agricultural structure was practically unchanged since the Spanish colonial period, as a semi-feudal state in terms of property and peasant working living conditions. That's why so many people left the rural areas for the cities. And in fact, the Catholic Church set the example by distributing its own land to peasants with support from Kennedy, President Kennedy's the Kennedy's Alliance for Progress. The Christian Democrats that Frei was a member of had strong ties to Europe, and Frei also received very strong support from the United States and from Kennedy in particular. During this period, remember, the Cuban Revolution had ignited hopes for a more just society, and Kennedy created the Alliance for Progress as a counterpoint to the Cuban Revolution by supporting social reform, including agrarian reform that we see here. With the election of Frei, land was redistributed and farm workers won the right to unionize for the first time. More than 400 unions represented 100,000 peasants. Allende would later deepen the agrarian reform process, using laws to expropriate large land holdings and transfer to state management. State acquired 35% of agro production and provided 20% of all jobs in the agro sector. Now, the high level of organization, union organization, explains why so many victims of dictatorship later would be union members, both in the city and in the countryside, and also why in the countryside, a number of former plantation owners took revenge by collaborating with the military to arrest people, execute them, and make them disappear. In 1970, Salvador Allende won his third bid for presidency, the third time, with a coalition of parties that he called the Unidad Popular, the Popular Unity Coalition. proclaiming what they called the Chilean way to socialism, which was the first, but not only time in which a socialist government came to office democratically through elections. This was a government that was highly supported in Europe. There were many European intellectuals. Mitterrand visited Chile. Allende, what he did was to deepen social policy, basically that had been started by Frey, such as the housing, agrarian reform, as we mentioned earlier. Also, he implemented very important measures in health, such as a free milk program that provided 1 liter of milk per every child. When the military regime later wanted to close this program, it was so central to people that people were able to surmount their fear and to hold one of the few bold protests in early years of dictatorship. Now, Frey had begun the process of what was called Chilenization of copper, with agreements that were reached with foreign companies, including U.S. copper companies, to allow Chile to acquire 51% of the properties and have a greater say in development. In July 71, there's an error up there. The poster is right, of course. There's a typo. It's not 73. In July 1971, an unanimous vote of the Chilean Congress, unanimous means, of course, that even parties of the right agreed that Chile had the right to the sovereign administration of their own natural resources and wealth. Chile introduced a planned production in keeping with the characteristics of the rural market. What's interesting is that later the military regime rolled back and reversed the privatizations and all the other areas that had been introduced under Allende, but they did not touch Codelco, the state copper firm. And today Codelco is the world's largest, has the world's most extensive copper reserves, and it's the most highly profitable copper company in the world. Now, Allende's Chilean way to socialism really faced an uphill battle it could not win. The classified State Department documents now show that having failed to prevent the election of Allende, President Richard Nixon and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, with collaboration with the CIA, initiated an economic blockade. The Nixon administration canceled loans to Chile and exerted pressure on international organizations and European countries to follow suit. Covert operations created conditions to oppose Allende in the Chilean Congress and then destabilize the democratically elected government to make way for the military coup.
El escenario creativo en la década de los 60 y 70 es influido por los cambios políticos, sociales y tecnológicos. Surgió entre el mundo artístico e intelectual una toma de conciencia frente a los agudos problemas de América Latina y una valorización de la obra cultural nacional y latinoamericana. En 1956 se inaugura uno de los talleres de grabado más importantes de Chile, llamado Taller 99, fundado por Nemesio Antuña, a imagen y semejanza del Atelier 17 que tenía Hayter en Nueva York. Los siguientes dos artistas fueron integrantes de este taller.
The creative scene of the 60s and 70s is strongly influenced by political, social, and technological changes. Writers and artists reflected the severe problem of social justice that affected Latin America. They also turned away from foreign influences and valued Latin American creators. Taller 99, Studio 99, founded in 1956 by Nemesio Antuña, was one of the most important print studios of Latin America, developed along the lines of the Atelier 17 of W.S. Hayter in New York. The next two artists were members of the Studio 99.
Santos Chávez, de origen indígena, es grabador que trabaja principalmente en xilografía, usando maderas nativas. No usaba prensa, sino cucharas. Santos Chávez mantuvo una figuración ligada a la imagen campesina de su infancia, visiones sobrenaturales sacadas de la mitología indígena y la tradición oral.
Of indigenous origin, Santos Chavez is a printmaker who primarily worked woodcuts, using native wood plates. He rarely used a press, preferring to use a spoon. His images reflected the rural scenes inside of his childhood, magical visions taken from indigenous mythology and oral tradition.
Una destacada grabadora argentina que participó en el taller 99 es Delia del Carril, la primera esposa de Pablo Neruda. Obra monocromas y un grueso trazo dan cuenta de grandes figuras humanas y en especial de caballos, expresando sentimientos como la amistad, la ternura y el amor.
Delia del Carril was a noted Argentine printmaker who participated in the Studio 99. She was the first wife of Pablo Neruda and very important in his career as a poet. Using monochrome tones and broad strokes, she portrayed human figures and many horses, which express emotional feelings like friendship, tenderness, and love.
En la década del 60 surge la primera vanguardia chilena que rompió con la tradición académica desmantelando la estructura del cuadro e incorporando el collage y la relación entre arte y política. Los siguientes dos pintores fueron integrantes del grupo Signo.
In the 60s arose the first Chilean avant-garde artist that broke with academic tradition and painting structure to incorporate collage and a relation between art and politics. The next two painters were members of Grupo Signo.
José Valdes tiene una visión testimonial y crítica, entendiendo la pintura como memoria. En la imagen de la derecha se narran los acontecimientos de la matanza de Santo Domingo. En la otra obra, titulada José Ricardo Ahumada Vázquez, de 1973, se aprecia un obrero encontrado muerto, producto del golpe militar.
Jorge Balmes has a critical and testimonial view, understanding painting as memory. In the image on the right, he narrates the events of the massacre of Santo Domingo. The other shows a worker found dead on the street after the military coup of 1973.
La pintura de Alberto Pérez simula reconstruir la violencia callejera, donde unos y otros se ocultan detrás de muros. Alberto Pérez tuvo una destacada labor como profesor de Historia de Arte en la Facultad de Arte de la Universidad de Chile. Fui su alumno en 1986, fallece en 1999.
The painting of Alberto Pérez reconstructs street violence and fear with figures hiding behind walls. He was a noted art history professor at the University of Chile. I was a student of his. He died in 1999.
Francisco Brugnoli. En esta obra, el artista utiliza desperdicio de la ciudad, los objetos de uso cotidiano. Junto a Virginia Errázuriz, la pintura a la izquierda contiene el arte y cómo se representa la realidad.
Francisco Brugnoli uses recycled material and objects of everyday use. Today, he is the director of Santiago's Contemporary Art Museum. Virginia Errázuriz, on the left, questions traditional art and the way it represents reality.
La obra de Gracia Barrios se ha llamado La pintura testimonio. Refleja un compromiso a las transformaciones sociales en Latinoamérica.
The work of Gracia Barrios has been called testimonial painting. It reflects a commitment with social transformations of Latin America.
La Brigada Ramona Parra nace a partir de las campañas presidenciales de Salvador Allende de 1964-1970, creando una forma de hacer propaganda política. Los murales son comúnmente realizados en zonas estratégicas, como la ribera del río Mapocho, plazas emblemáticas o sectores marginales. Después del golpe, fue perseguido por la policía y tuvo que pintar clandestinamente.
Ramona Parra Mural Brigade is born from the 1964 and 1970 presidential campaigns of Salvador Allende. Murals were commonly painted in highly visible and strategic locations, like the banks of the Mapocho River, public plazas, or poor neighborhoods. After the coup, it was often persecuted by police and had to paint clandestinely.
Roberto Mata fue un gran surrealista que trabajó en Francia y que vuelve a Chile para apoyar al gobierno de Salvador Allende. Trabajó junto a los jóvenes de la Brigada Ramona Parra pintando murales en su propio estilo. Este mural se llama El Gol de Chile. Vino el golpe y no solo borraron el mural, sino que botaron el muro.
Roberto Mata was a great surrealist who worked mostly in France. He returned to Chile in 1971 to support the government of Salvador Allende. He worked with the young people of the Ramona Parra Brigade, painting murals in his own style, as this particular mural called The Goal of Chile. After the coup, the military did not just paint over the mural, they knocked down the whole wall.
Se forma el Museo de la Solidaridad, como un homenaje de artistas del mundo con el entonces presidente Salvador Allende. Al museo entregaron trabajos a artistas de todo el mundo como Miró, Calder, Picasso, Siqueiro, Passarelli, Tapiz, Moore, Franz Tela y artistas chilenos. Tras el golpe militar, algunas obras fueron destruidas, otras fueron a parar en diversas bodegas de la ciudad, donde permanecieron hasta el retorno de la democracia. En 1990, cuando fueron recuperadas e instaladas en el nuevo Museo de la Solidaridad Salvador Allende.
Solidarity Museum was created in 1972 as a tribute by artists throughout the world to President Salvador Allende. Miró, Calder, Picasso, Siqueiros, Passarelli, Tapies, Moore, Frank Stella are some of the artists who donated artwork to create the museum. After the coup, some parts of the collection were destroyed and others ended up in warehouses where they remained until 1990, when a new Allende Solidarity Museum was opened.
Change. Even more change. Well, Chile and the United States are bonded in different ways, but especially by two September 11th. In Chile and the United States, terror arrived from the sky on September 11th. United States, it was in Chile, it was 1973. On that day, there were Hawker Hunter jets produced from the United States that dived to bomb La Moneda presidential palace. What I would like to point out still is that Chile had projected the not entirely accurate image of a long and solid democratic history since independence. It's true that Chile had always, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Chile had harbored political refugees from other Latin American countries, and many Latin American students studied in some of the best universities in Latin America in Chile. It had a national Congress and very stable political structure as compared to the Latin American countries. However, it's important to recognize that in the past there had been presidents who had been elected democratically, had turned out to be terrible tyrants who exercised repression. In fact, Pablo Neruda was forced to go into exile in 1949, or else he may have become another disappeared. But never before had Chile experienced a coup with the systematic repression that affected every aspect of daily life. Immediately following the military coup, the military junta disbanded Congress, permitting the courts to continue and function as an arm of the junta, and they set up a committee to make de facto laws to justify its actions. The military dictatorship headed by Augusto Pinochet exemplified the practice of terrorism as a state policy to maintain political and psychosocial control of a population. The military regime justified suspension of civil liberties and repression due on account of state of siege. It declared a fictional internal war against the enemy from within in name of the national security doctrine learned from U.S. military advisors at the School of the Americas. During 17 years of dictatorship, Chilean military and its agents would be responsible for murdering, torture, or execution more than 3,000 fellow citizens, while thousands were arbitrarily imprisoned, banished to remote areas of the country, or forced into foreign exile. Torture became systematic practice in secret detention centers, and forced disappearance hid all trace of people murdered in order to achieve impunity and create a climate of uncertainty and fear. Chilean military rulers claimed national sovereignty when international critics denounced human rights practices and flagrant violations of Geneva Conventions. The regime ruthlessly pursued opponents, not only in Chile but also across international borders. At this time, I would like to pause to remember Orlando Letelier, the former ambassador of Chile to the United States, who was also the Secretary of State of Chile under Allende, who was the first political prisoner to be released from prison in Chile, thanks to international outcry, and he came to the United States where he became an outspoken opponent of the regime. The assassination of Orlando Letelier and his colleague, U.S. citizen Ronnie Moffett, on September 21st, 1976, 30 years ago last week, was the first act of international terrorism on U.S. soil. The man who planted the bomb on Letelier's car was a U.S. citizen who worked as an agent for the repressive Chilean DINA agent. He bought the parts to make the bomb in a Sears Roebuck and Radio Shack in Washington, D.C. He turned state's witness and is still living somewhere in the United States and with protected status. Now, I want to say that on the one hand, not everything is gloomy, because the one thing is that Chile, while it exemplified the practice of state terrorism, it was really, it's good to say that it also created a great human rights consciousness throughout the world. And it was rapid world condemnation of Chile that isolated the country. In the United States, the Kennedy Amendment cut off arms sales to Chile, and Orlando Letelier himself was really key in persuading Belgium to cut off military aid to Chile. International cooperation was fundamental for creating and maintaining new human rights organizations that sprung up to respond to the urgent need during dictatorship. Citizen participation did make a difference, and it can make a difference today. Chile became an international cause for progressive people throughout the world, and inspired by the idealism that the Popular Unity government represented and the brutality with which it was cut down. The United Nations practically inaugurated its human rights watchdog role with Chile. During 17 years, Chile was a permanent topic on the UN agenda, and was the first country to which the UN Human Rights Commission assigned a special rapporteur to monitor a specific situation of flagrant human rights violations. And they kept that in place until 1990. By 1983, people had begun to lose their fear. In May 1983, with the first national protests that continued nearly monthly during the next 2 years, ANS responded with much repression by the dictatorship. There are many deaths and many people wounded. But together with international pressure, the protests forced the military regime to call a plebiscite for October 5th, 1988. The yes vote would mean the military junta presided by Pinochet would continue another 8 years, while the no vote would mean presidential elections would be held. People had to register to vote, and remember that voter registration cards had been burned, and the voter registration office closed down in 1973, 10 years before. And 1 month, they had just 1 month to register, and in that month before, more than 7 million Chileans had registered to vote. More than 92% of all citizens qualified to do so. The No campaign was an extraordinary breath of fresh air after 15 years of censorship and lack of pluralism. During the month before the referendum, Chile's television transmitted 15 minutes of campaign publicity of each side. Pinochet had been so confident that he would win that he was furious at his advisors at election night when the results began to show that he was losing, and at first refused to concede defeat. After the plebiscite and before presidential campaign, the alliance of democratic parties, you have to say, negotiated, sat down at the bargaining table and negotiated with the transition with military officials. And these conditions would ensure institutional continuity that are at the heart of many problems that affect us even today. Now we go back to the art in those years.
El golpe militar trae consigo una brutal represión que incluye la censura cultural y represión hacia muchos artistas. Algunos partieron al exilio, mientras otros permanecieron en Chile. La situación vivida queda claramente graficada en lo sucedido en la exposición del artista Guillermo Núñez. La muestra presenta un conjunto de jaulas para pájaros y dentro de ellas coloca diversos objetos, como un pan, una flor, una banderita chilena. Al día siguiente de la inauguración fue detenido por la policía. Durante 6 meses estuvo en prisiones y un gran tiempo con los ojos vendados, hasta que les fue posible exiliarse.
Military coup brings fierce repression that includes cultural censorship and persecution of many artists. Some leave for exile, while others remain in Chile. In 1975, one gallery was set on flames. The situation experienced by artist Guillermo Núñez shows how dangerous it was for artists. In 1975, he mounted a series of bird cages with different objects inside, like a piece of bread, a flower, a Chilean flag, here the Mona Lisa. The morning after the inauguration, the exhibit was shut down and he was arrested. He spent 6 months in secret prisons, where he was tortured and maintained most of the time blindfolded, until he was exiled from Chile.
El grupo CADA nació en 1978, conformado entre otros por la artista Lotte Rosenfeld, la escritora Daniela Alplit. La propuesta del colectivo era realizar trabajos en conjuntos, con una mirada crítica hacia los acontecimientos de la época de la dictadura. Desde 1979, Lotte Rosenfeld pone cruces en la calle para cuestionar el poder, primero en las calles de Santiago, después en la Casa Blanca de Washington y en el puesto fronterizo, en las 2 Alemanias.
Grupo CADA is born in 1978, made up, among others, by artist Lotte Rosenfeld and writer Diamela Altit. The group developed installations and performances collectively, with a critical view of the dictatorship. In 1979, Lotte Rosenfeld began a series of interventions, placing crosses or plus signs on the pavement, on the streets of Santiago, and later in front of the White House and the border between East and West Germany.
Los atropellos a los derechos humanos comienzan a ser denunciados abiertamente por artistas. Diamela Altit y sus acciones realiza en 1980 el llamado Zona de Dolor. Se infieren quemaduras y cortes punzantes en brazos y piernas, transitando luego por hospitales, cárceles y prostíbulos. En estos sitios leyó trozos de su novela Por la Patria, junto a la proyección de diapositiva sobre paredes mientras lavaba sus paredes. Carlos Lepe, por su parte, presenta una postura en que el cuerpo es soporte y actor al mismo tiempo. Utiliza y fracciona su anatomía, como por ejemplo en El Perchero de 1975.
The group CADA and other artists began to openly denounce human rights violations. In 1980, Diamela Altit developed a series of art actions she called Songs of Pain, in which she self-inflicted small burns and cuts on her legs and arms, and then walked through hospitals, prisons, and even brothels, reading her writing and projecting slides on the walls. Here she symbolically washing the sidewalk of Santiago. Carlos Lepe used his own body to produce dramatic art actions, like this one in 1975, to denounce torture.
La escena de avanzada se refiere a ciertos artistas quienes cuestionan la situación de la dictadura, como en el caso de Carlos Altamirano. Esta imagen vemos la foto de un detenido desaparecido, y en la parte superior un texto con la pregunta ¿dónde están? Es una serie de 40 rostros con 40 nombres por los cuales el artista pregunta. Eugenio Dipo retrata el mundo marginal de la sociedad.
Escena avanzada, avant-garde, was a group of artists who questioned the situation of the dictatorship. In these images by Carlos Altamirano, we see the photo of a disappeared person and the question, where are they? This is part of a series of 40 faces, 40 names and questions. Eugenio Dipo portrays the marginalized world.
A fines de los años 70 y principios de los 80 comienza a agotarse el arte conceptual. Trabajan escenas cotidianas e intimistas, alejándose de los temas políticos contingentes, predominando el gesto, la mancha, el chorreo y el color, aunque esta obra de Tacla muestra la moneda en llaves.
In the late 70s and early 80s, conceptual art begins to expire. A new school of artists returned to a neo-expressionism, and some distance themselves from overtly political themes, although Jorge Tacla here depicts images of the La Moneda Presidential Palace bond. They use bold color, drips, and splashes of paint.
Alrededor de 1980 se va gestando en las poblaciones una forma de expresar las inquietudes y protestas frente a la situación que vive el país. En forma rápida y clandestina, se escribe y pinta sobre los muros denunciando la cesantía, el hambre, la tortura, la desaparición de personas y la falta de justicia y de libertad. Resurgen talleres culturales de música, teatro y el muralismo. Uno de los tantos grupos de muralistas fue la Brigada Hermo Catalán.
Hermo Catalán Brigade is one of many mural groups that emerged in the early 1980s with the first national protests. They developed a system to paint very rapidly and clandestinely on walls to denounce unemployment, hunger, torture, disappearance of people, and lack of freedom. This is a time of great cultural resurgence, not only in murals, but also in theater and music.
Here we've arrived in 1990, in this voyage, this trip we're taking through time. We're now in March 1990, when at that time, Patricio Aylwin became the first democratically elected president in 20 years. The transition from traditional transition democratic governments are now approaching 17 years, the same number of years the dictatorship was in place. Yet the dictatorship still casts a long shadow, as even this photograph might suggest, particularly in three aspects: Chile's legal structure, human rights, and economy. Pinochet's dictatorship had a peculiar characteristic that has made Chile's transition back to democracy also rather difficult. The dictatorship was legalistic. The junta shut down Congress, but it formed a committee to make de facto laws that gave the regime the facade of legality and were meant to justify all of its actions. Since the return of the first democratically elected government in 1990, many de facto laws remain in place and have been given force of law, greatly affecting various fundamental aspects of life. Not least of all is the Constitution. In 1980, the military simply trashed the legitimate constitution and created one that was tailor-made for their own needs. Another is the educational structure law that most people had forgotten about until this past May when high school students protested. Also, there's the reserve copper law, in which the military takes 10% of state copper company Codelco's sales for weapons, for arms purchase. The striking students asked why not divert that 10% to improve education or public health. Another is the amnesty, the decree law, which the military enacted in '78 when evidence of its crimes began to surface, to make sure to shield its agents from any possible prosecution in the future. The legacy of the dictatorship is at the core of problems that affect the Chilean society today. These are often referred to as leyes de amarre, which is the Spanish word for binding, in the sense that these laws supposedly limit or put a straitjacket on government efforts to solidify democracy. The first governments always pointed to these laws and conditions inherited as explanations for social problems. Yet, as the student movement pointed out, it has been 16 years, and it looks like it's also been a convenient excuse for maintaining the status quo. One of the most important measures Patricio Aylwin took after inauguration on March 11, 1990 was to create the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Over the course of 9 months, the commission interviewed people, amassed documentation of executions and disappearance. Even in 1991, the leading newspaper in Mercurio had always referred to political prisoners as self-proclaimed or autodenominados political prisoners and alleged disappearance. With this report, what had been the victim's truth now became the truth of the whole Chilean society, and it was irrefutable. One aspect of that truth, however, beyond the sheer numbers, was official recognition that this was not the work of isolated madmen, but rather it had been a system that had been calculated, planned, and carried out as state policy. Still, truth was disassociated from justice. During 25 years, Chilean courts never accepted international law for justice and human rights cases, and always uses amnesty law to close cases. It seemed that impunity was going to be an outcome for all human rights violations. Well, that changed. That changed not thanks to Chile, but thanks to a very brave Spanish judge called Baltasar Garzón, who in 1998 took advantage of the fact that Augusto Pinochet happened to be visiting in London and took sick and was in a clinic there, and very quickly issued an extradition order for a case that he had developed in Spain. The 504 days Pinochet was under house arrest inspired attorneys back in Chile to revitalize old cases and to file new ones. Since '99, attorneys in Chile had filed more than 500 criminal complaints related to past human rights violations, most of them naming Pinochet as one of the defendants. The courts have not applied the amnesty in a single case, although very few cases have reached sentencing stage, and even fewer have resulted in convictions. Now, you might wonder why are they smiling if he's under arrest? Well, he's with his wife and good friend Margaret Thatcher. Well, in July 2004, the U.S. Senate Subcommittee discovered, you could say some are critics of, but this was a very good result of the Patriot Act. This is called the Patriot Act. Patriot Act discovered that Pinochet, at this time, was concealing millions of dollars in assets in the Riggs Bank in Washington, D.C., while under house arrest in London. Could that be the joke that they're sharing, that they're laughing about here? Now the Chilean government, afraid of the afraid son, I could say, had insisted on the release of Pinochet in London on grounds of infringement of national sovereignty, that same old story that the military dictatorship had used, and on the promise that he could be brought to trial in Chile. Ultimately, he was saved on humanitarian grounds due to alleged mental incapacity to defend himself and to face trial. That became the formula for evading trial in Chile as well. But as I say, in July 2004, he was charged in Chile thanks to the revelation of the Senate subcommittee. And these illicit activities of the former dictator led to charges of malfeasance in office, fraud, bribery, falsification documents, and other crimes against him and all of his family, including his happy wife there in the picture. Now, what's curious is what's really curious is that Pinochet supporters who were unfazed by human rights violations, were indignant with him to learn of the fortune that he had amassed and stolen from them, and had not shared with them. You know, surely it seems that apparently there is a double standard, that there seems to be zero tolerance for corruption, but there's impunity for perpetrators of human rights violations. Now, I mentioned the two other legacies of dictatorship. One is the economy. Chile is always pointed to as the most stable economy in Latin America, and well, in a way that's certainly true. Economic factors indicated since 1990 have been really impressive. Inflation in 92 was at 12%, and in 99 fell to just 2%. Foreign investment represents US $3 billion of the national economy. Exports broke all records. In 92, they were 15 million, in 2006, 18. But still, this is an export-centered economy dominated by exploitation of natural resources. Agriculture, mining, forestry, fishing, and this means it's also been a very favorable climate for foreign multinational corporations. There's absolutely no royalty taxes, and there's carte blanche with the environment. In the mid-1980s also, the dictatorship deregulated and privatized basic services like schools, public health. I mentioned that up to 1973, Chile had one of the highest literacy rates in Latin America. That's sadly very, very far from the case today. And also, the democratic government since 1990, which is curious, continued the privatization trend that the dictatorship had learned from their Chicago advisors like Milton Friedman. And today, some people say there's been a second Spanish conquest of Chile, because since 1990, Spanish firms have bought up water, electricity, and telecommunications firms of Chile. I also want to mention that the distribution of distribution of income in Chile is one of the worst in the world. Even today in Chile, the wealthiest 20% earns just 17 times the income of the poorest 20%. In the United States, this is 8.9%. In Peru, it's 10%. In South Korea, it's 5.7%. So you can see Chile is really way ahead. It also shows us that macroeconomics do not always translate to a trickle-down effect and social equity. Well, we are now in the year 2006. Chile always historically was much closer culturally to Europe, and there had been a great distance with the United States. There was up to the 1960s and 1970s. There was a strong economic presence in the United States, but there was certain resistance culturally to the United States. Well, that changed also during dictatorship. Today, Chile, like much of Latin America, is much closer to the United States cultural model in terms of music, fashion, obesity, and high cholesterol rates that are rocketing in Chile are probably signals that the globalized culture of the malls and McDonald's has taken hold in Chile as well.
Con la recuperación de la democracia surgen los espacios de participación ciudadana y de libertad de expresión. En 1990, el nuevo presidente Patricio Aylwin nombra como director del Museo de Bellas Artes a Nemesio Antunes, que fue sacado de su puesto y exiliado a partir del golpe militar, y regresa al país en 1985. La idea del museo abierto era abrir la cultura a toda la gente y en especial a todos los más pobres, quienes podían entrar gratis, además de la visita guiada. Las obras y exposiciones que estuvieron censuradas son expuestas ahora.
With the recovery of democracy, citizen participation and freedom of expression begins to re-emerge. In 1990, Presidente Aylwin appoints as director of the Fine Arts Museum Nemesio Antunes, who had been removed deportation by the military coup and forced into exile. His idea for the OP Museum was to make culture accessible to everyone, especially the poor, eliminating entrance fees and offering guided museum tours. The museum reopened with exhibits that had been censored during the dictatorship.
Memorial Visual de una Nación es el mural más grande de Sudamérica que se sitúa en una estación del metro de Santiago en 1996. Narra la historia de Chile, que podría ser la historia de otros países latinoamericanos, desde la cultura precolombina, la conquista, la guerra por la independencia, la violencia política y la historia reciente de Chile.
Mario Toral painted the largest mural of South America called Visual Memory of a Nation, which was mounted in Santiago subway station in 1996. It narrates the history of Chile, which could be the history of any other Latin American nation, from pre-Columbian civilization, the Spanish conquest, War of Independence, political violence, and recent Chilean history.
En la década de los 90 surge una nueva generación de artistas jóvenes que en su mayoría eran muy niños para el golpe de Estado de 1973 o no habían nacido. Volúpa Harpa comenzó trabajando en una serie de temas políticos con sitios de lienzos de la ciudad de Santiago. En el caso de Patrick Hamilton, transforma objetos para estimular la reflexión sobre la guerra, tortura, dictadura y la muerte.
In the 1990s, arises a new generation of young artists who were children or had not even been born at the time of the 1973 coup. Voluspa Harpa began her work with a series of political themes utilizing vacant lots. Patrick Hamilton transformed objects to simulate reflection on war, torture, dictatorships, and death.
Yo soy integrante de esta nueva generación de artistas jóvenes.
I am part of this generation of new artists.
Como la pintura que ven acá presente, es una obra cuyo contenido social y simbólico se centra desde la perspectiva del niño que crece en los espacios marginales.
This painted child in the periphery symbolizes the viewpoint of a child who grows up in the marginalized neighborhoods on the outskirts of Santiago.
Desde 1996 he orientado mi trabajo artístico y pedagógico en la temática urbana, en donde la periferia juega un papel crítico y social relevante. En ese sentido, he orientado mi trabajo pedagógico artístico a una labor social y cultural y ciudadana, enseñando en comunas periféricas como Conchalí, Huechuraba, La Granja, Quilicura y El Bosque.
Since 1996, the periphery has been an important theme for both my personal work as an artist and my vocation as a teacher. My work portrays the stories of the roots and our movements from the periphery to the urban center. My work as a teacher has a social, cultural, and citizenship mission. I have always taught in community centers in low-income peripheral sectors of Conchalí, Huecharuba, La Granja, Quilicura, and El Bosque.
Esto significó que la Iglesia Anglicánica de Nueva Orleans me invitara a dirigir el taller Muralismo Pinta tu Barrio de 1996 con niños y jóvenes de diversos países y etnias, anglosajones, afroamericanos y latinos.
Also in 1996, an Episcopal Church of New Orleans invited me to conduct a summer mural program with a multicultural group of youngsters.
A mediados de los años 1990 se crean centros culturales en sectores populares de Santiago para posibilitar el acceso a expresiones culturales. En el sur de Santiago se crea la Casa de la Cultura Anselmo Cádiz, que funciona en esta zona de bajos recursos. Allá he trabajado desde 1998 como profesor de arte, facilitando que se potencie capacidad de artistas por razones económicas y sociales que han quedado postergados.
In the mid-1990s, a number of cultural centers funded by local municipal governments opened in working-class districts of Santiago. In southern Santiago, the Anselmo Cádiz Cultural Center opened in a modest neighborhood called El Bosque. I have worked there since 1998 as an art teacher, helping to tap creative potential that lies dormant due to economic and social factors.
He fortalecido el trabajo de promisorios y anónimos artistas locales, como en el caso de Soledad Espinosa, y he montado exposiciones de artistas locales que son mis alumnos.
Here, I have encouraged the work of many promising and anonymous local artists like Soledad Espinosa. I conduct art workshops, have made murals including one with mosaics with my students. In 2005, we opened the first exhibition of local artists, including many of my students, which were highly acclaimed by the media.
He realizado murales en distintas comunas, como en el caso de Huechuraba, con mi alumno.
I had created murals in different communities like Huechuraba that I created with my students.
Donde representa la historia local de ese lugar.
And here I represent the local history of the place.
Mi obra, Retrato de Goliat, es un símbolo a la destrucción de los lugares que tienen memoria.
My work, Portrait of Goliath, is a tribute to the places that are destroyed but that they have memory.
Cómo la tecnología destruye espacios públicos.
I try to show how technology destroys public space.
El recorrido circular habla de los mapas y de nuestro recorrido.
Recorrido circular, which is a circular route, talks about our maps and our routes.
También se refiere a la diversidad del plano.
It also refers to diversity of the map.
Y además, la relación y la diferencia entre urbano y periferia.
And also talks about the similarities and difference between the urban and the periphery.
Ahora hemos acabado nuestro viaje. Soy un pintor chileno del 2006, al contrario del pintor italiano Alejandro Sicarelli. Mi mirada es de adentro como parte de Chile. Siento un papel de seguir interpretando y haciendo ecos de los sueños para un mundo mejor. Como dijera Salvador Allende, la historia es nuestra y lo hacen los pueblos.
Now we are done with our trip on time. I am a Chilean painter in the year 2006. As opposed to Alejandro Sicarelli, my view is from within, as a part of Chile. I am an artist that feels the need to keep interpreting and echoing the dreams of a better world. As Salvador Allende once said, history is ours, and people make history.
Muchas gracias.
They will be open for some questions. If you have any questions, we got 3 minutes. If you want to, ask some questions, the artists will be glad to do that. Any questions? Okay. He wants to make a little statement, or he wants to say something.
Nosotros, con Max, nosotros, estamos muy contentos de estar acá y de vivir esta linda experiencia.
We, Max and myself, are very happy to be here and live with you this experience.
Y hay varias personas que fueron fundamentales para que nosotros pudiéramos venir.
And there are a few people that were very important for us to come here.
Además de la ayuda que nos han brindado acá personalmente.
Besides the help that people offer here while they were here.
Con mucho cariño le queremos dejar un presente como un símbolo de amistad hacia ellos.
We we want to bring them here and present as a sign of friendship.
Le queremos regalar y que venga adelante Max y a Hannah, por favor. Un aplauso. También a Ricardo Viera por el trabajo que hicimos de distancia por teléfono y toda la coordinación que significó la confianza que tuvo conmigo.
Gracias.
Y a nuestra querida amiga
And of course, Edurne.
Edurne.
She didn't know, but we knew we were going to make her work. Oh, and then we have, and since you've been here, we've had two helpers who've been so concerned about every detail. Are Tina and Christina here?
Tina.
Well, only then Christina receives them both. No.
Bueno, y muchas gracias a todos los presentes y espero verlos pronto. Bye.